Hey you and welcome. My name is Mike, and in this whole video we're going somewhere. That somewhere is Bardstown, Kentucky. Now this is a story I talked about it a couple of years ago, but it's one I barely scratched the surface of. I wanted to do a proper deep dive on this story because you know what it is? It's full of guano, lads, let me tell you. From 2013 to 2016, every year something happened. But what are the links? Well, they're all unsolved, you know, which is a bit like, alright here lads, come on, wake up, wakey time. So we don't actually know, but what we do know is that there is something ugly in the most beautiful small town in America, according to Rand McNally in USA Today. So let's get into it. Now, so let's go back and begin when and where this all began. Get out the banjo, because it's on the Bluegrass Parkway, 2013. The Bluegrass Parkway runs from Elizabethtown to Lexington, Kentucky, and right smack dab in the middle lies Bardstown. Bardstown is all about the bourbon, sipping the good stuff, you know yourself. In fact, pretty much all of the things to do in Bardstown revolve around bourbon. I wonder if got most beautiful small town, the voters are fucking hammered. In fact, our story begins about a year after it won that coveted title when Officer Jason Ellis was heading home on the 25th of May 2013. Jason Ellis was 33 years old. He'd been a member of the Bardstown Police Department for 7 years. He was like a Top Gun officer guy. He had won awards, was Officer of the Year in 2008, and he was the police department's only K-9 officer. Had been for 5 years at this point. That day was fairly routine, tickety-boo, you know, no major kerfuffles or anything like that, and he'd be finishing after midnight. He finished up his shift at 1:59 a.m. after one final rest when the guy became disorderly. It's bourbon. What do you expect? And Jason signed off and began the drive home without beloved Figo, the service dog. He was driving in a pool car. He was heading along the Bluegrass Parkway to get home. And as he slowed on his approach to exit 34, he began to follow the circular ramp. As he drove up, his headlight illuminated something in the middle of the road. What it was cut tree limbs blocking the road. He pulled over, turned on the overhead lights to warn anyone following him up the ramp, and then popped out to clear the tree limbs. Maybe it was just kids or something, you know, but this could have caused a serious accident. It wasn't kids. It was there for him. As he picked up the tree limbs, branches had some in his arm, several shotgun blasts rang out from the bushes in the darkness. Jason was struck multiple times. The arm, the head, the face. He didn't have a chance. He didn't have time to grab his own weapon. About 5 minutes later, someone else took the same exit and the police were alerted.
Hello? Officer down, Bluefield Road. Officer down. You need to give us a location. Bluefield Road by the Y. There's been a tree limb or something. Officer down, please, emergency.
The police car is sitting in the middle of the road with the lights on, and we didn't know what it was. It's a tree across the road, and I didn't know what it was, and I got out and I went up there and looked, and it's him. I believe somebody's hit him.
Jason Ellis, who was married with 2 kids, had been killed instantly. His murder was it was a big deal. He was the first officer of the Bardstown Police Department ever killed in the line of duty, and he'd been ambushed. It's believed the shooter was waiting for him on the hill overlooking the road, and was waiting for him specifically. This was someone that knew his route.
Someone planned this. Someone planned this, and someone planned to shoot somebody at that spot, at that location, at that time.
It makes you mad. An eye for an eye. You kill one of my guys, I'm not going to rest till I have you in cuffs or on the front side of a weapon. And I mean that.
Like, even the tree that blocked the road, that was, like, the tree wasn't indigenous to the area. Somebody cut the tree up and brought it there. This was, like, meticulously planned by someone who knew his route home and exactly what time he'd be taking it at, you know. But who or whom? I don't know. So why? Well, I mean, again, theories, but it's largely, well, it's thought that there was probably more than one person involved that night. The medical examiner said some wounds were from a distant range, others from an intermediate. But then again, it could have been, you know, one shooter advancing. There have never really been any strong leads, that we know of anyway. Jason, he had no secrets. Well, then again, we wouldn't know if he did. But he wasn't involved in, like, anything that you would imagine someone who would end up facing the business end of a shotgun would be involved. He was clean. He was squeaky clean. He, you know, he had no, dark ties or anything like that. He was just a regular guy, bit of a goopster that liked to turn up the giggle meter. But Jason was involved, you know, in drug enforcement. He was the sole canine officer in that police department, so... well, you can see why some people would want him gone. Some pointed towards the BMG, that's the Bardstown Money Gang, who trafficked drugs. Though others think they're, you know, they're kids who wanted to look hard and actually wanted the credit, you know, for being cop killers. One thing is that the words "a degree of tactical precision" were used, which is like not someone, you know, popping off shots. We're talking military or police training. Probably more than one, possibly someone he knew. I mean, they must have known him if they knew his route, or knew somebody who knew him. The Kentucky State Police would take over the investigation, and over the years, a reward of $200,000 would be offered for information, but it wouldn't be taken.
In the early morning hours of May 25th, 2013, Officer Jason Ellis, a 7-year veteran of the Bardstown Police Department, having just completed his shift, was returning home to his wife and 2 children. If you have any information in regard to the events on or leading up to the night of May 25th involving the murder of Officer Jason Ellis, please contact the Kentucky State Police Post 4 at area code 270-766-50.
There were tips, but none ever really panned out. Or even seemed, you know, too plausible. It just didn't make sense. So that takes us to about 1 year later, when sense becomes like a distant memory. Because, you know, you can see why somebody might want a cop killed, especially, you know, a drug cop. Right? There, you can see there's reasons behind that. You can see the logic. Hard to see the logic for this one.
Hey, Milky Way. Milky Way. Say hi, Mommy. Oh, she's rubbing the camera. I hope you can hear her purr. You're not getting my food. Now lay down. Lay down.
Probably someone's bigger.
In April 2014, a school teacher and her 16-year-old daughter would have the same fate as Jason Ellis. 48-year-old Kathy Netherland and her daughter lived just outside the city limits of Bardstown, and on the 22nd of April, they both failed to show up for school. Kathy Netherland was a special education teacher at Bardstown Elementary School. She had 2 daughters, Holly, who was a couple years older than Samantha, and was in college. And, well, her other daughter was Samantha. Kathy's husband, Bob, died less than a year prior from cancer in July 2013. If Jason Ellis was clean, then Kathy and Samantha were squeaky. There's no reason why anybody would want a special education teacher and a high school student brutally murdered. There's no reason for them to be targeted in the way that they were. Kathy was a beloved teacher in school. Samantha, a popular, student, top of her class, and had just been accepted into Gatton Academy, a college entrance program. After both Kathy and Samantha failed to show up to their schools, that's Bardstown Elementary and Bardstown High, people tried to call them to no avail, so they eventually contacted Kathy's dad, who, lived in town. He popped over to their house. When he arrived, he saw Kathy's car in the driveway, and, upon entering the house,
Kentucky State Police have officially ruled the deaths of the Nelson County mother and daughter as homicides.
Autopsies were performed today on Kathy and Samantha Netherland, but investigators are not saying how they died.
Kathy had been shot several times. Samantha had been cruelly beaten in the head. Both had their throats cut. A real violent scene. Gruesome end with more of the violence apparently being directed towards Samantha for whatever reason. It's believed the attack happened the night before, around 8 p.m, as darkness fell. Both were in separate rooms when this occurred, so there was probably more than one attacker, and it probably took place over the course of about 10 minutes. Pretty quick. It didn't seem like anything had been stolen or was missing, so, not a burglary gone wrong or something like that. So the why, that's pretty unexplainable. Was it like a random attack? That's what most people were thinking. I mean, there's some rumors that it was like a gang initiation or something. They have to do this to prove they were like tough guys, which just seems more like an urban legend than based on any fact. The only lead thing the police have released to the public, in this instance is a car. They released this picture to the public. It was caught on surveillance leaving the area not long after the attack was believed to have occurred. They never found the car though.
I'd like to thank the Kentucky State Police and all law enforcement working on this investigation. They have worked tirelessly to find Kathy and Samantha's killer or killers. But with all of the days of support and hard work, the reality is that a murderer walks free, possibly on the same streets as you.
Obviously, everybody knows that Nelson County's had a rough year. We would like to be able to solve this murder as soon as we possibly can, just for the well-being of the people over there, as well as the family and anybody that cared about the Netherlands.
One piece of information that got a lot of attention was a post Kathy put on Facebook about 4 months prior. That's this. Earlier this afternoon, we heard a noise. I thought one of our 2 cats had knocked something over. We didn't find anything disturbed, so we thought it was nothing. Boy, were we wrong. A little while ago, Holly opens our front door to go outside to pick up the mail, and finds both glass panes in our screen door shattered. We have taken pics, and I've carefully removed loose pieces of glass and the glass frames. All the shattered glass pieces have been swept up off the front porch. Guess I'll be heading to Lowe's tomorrow to find replacements. Crazy how unexpected events happen. How right you are. That, to people, seem very suspicious, like someone may have been stalking them, watching them, or perhaps even testing, to see how they would react. Kathy, at the time, didn't think much of it, but if it was related, nobody knows. Probably just like a weird coinkydink. But yeah, weird. Now, at this point, I guess I should mention, there was some speculation that the other daughter, Holly, was involved. She wasn't. She was 2 hours away in university. It's quite a kind of an insulting rumor that went around. She always cooperated fully with the police, as I don't even understand why. Maybe as if like an insurance fraud or something. It's not that kind of case. But anyway, I just figured I should mention it. A lot of information about this case it hasn't been released. The police kept it, pretty close to their chest. But it seems, more than likely quite like Jason Ellis's. Not going anywhere fast. A reward of $50,000 has been offered for information leading to an arrest. The bulk of that actually made up of Holly Netherland's inheritance. So that takes us to probably what's like the most famous case to come out of Bardstown around this time. It's the disappearance of Crystal Rogers. Almost exactly 1 year separates every incident. It's like just when you think things, are kind of quietening down, something happens. Because that's what happened. On the 5th of July 2015, Crystal Rogers' car was found abandoned along, you guessed it, the Bluegrass Parkway. The keys were still inside, along with her uncharged cell phone, purse and all that. One tire was flat, but no sign of Crystal, and hasn't been since. Crystal Rogers was the mother of 5, 35 years old in 2015. She was a local, had been in a few different relationships, and married before she ended up with Brooks Houck. Crystal would have one child with him. They had started dating after she rented a place from him. Brooks was a polite, mannerly fella, and he'd owned a number of properties in the area. His family were doing well enough. He in fact actually ran unsuccessfully for sheriff in 2014.
My name is Brooks Houck, and I look forward to becoming your next Nelson County Sheriff. I'm a proud native of Nelson County, and my family and I are excited about what the future holds for our community.
In the beginning, Crystal and Brooks, they got along like a house on fire, living together, great time raising kids. Crystal would actually work for him managing properties and doing rent collection and so on and so forth. But over the years, things started to sour, as they do between Crystal and Brooks. And Crystal's parents, Tommy and Sherry Ballard, did not think too highly of him. It seemed their relationship started to become stressed, fractured. Crystal mentioned that she might want to leave Brooks. And this all takes us to the weekend of the 4th of July, 2014. Now, Crystal was very close with her parents. And so when they couldn't get, true to her all that weekend, that's what raised, suspicions. So they kept trying to, get true to her, and other family members, did as well. Everybody was trying to get true to her. And when they couldn't, they eventually got in touch with Brooks. Brooks told them that she's just gone. She's gone. I don't know where she's gone. She left me. That old one. He said she upped and left in the middle of the night, leaving the kids with him. That was a bit like, yeah, alright, try again. Because she would never leave her kids. Ever. That was on the 5th of July, the same day Crystal's mother reported her missing. And also that same day her car was found along the Bluegrass Parkway. Her family immediately began searching the area even before the police did. Interestingly, when the police did get out there, and we're having a go, the police dogs found no scent of Crystal at all.
The family of a Bardstown woman reported missing on Sunday is searching, sunshine through the rain. Many members of Rogers' family are searching numerous locations in Nelson County looking for her.
We were down there in the rain and everything. It's muddy, it's nasty, but any tip we can get where to look, we're just pulling straws as to where to go. We'll go anywhere. Anybody has any leads, anything, just call us, we'll be there. But
she's got little kids, and they miss their mama.
The police immediately zoned in on Brooks Houck, who, weird, didn't take part in the searches at all either. Now, Brooks Houck has a brother, Nick Houck, who was a member of the Bardstown Police Department, and he had been on the same shift as Jason Ellis. He wasn't too interested in these searches either. The last, that we know of, is that on the 3rd of July, Crystal texted a friend saying she was happy that she would have some alone time with Brooks. She had gotten a babysitter. The last she was seen was on CCTV in the local supermarket. So Brooks' story, right, is that the last he's seen of Crystal is that on the 3rd of July, they went out to his family farm. And the pair of them went out there with their 2-year-old son, Eli, to, go have a bit of a wander, feed the cows. Walk through the fields, enjoy the smell of cow shit. Now, it was apparently lashing rain that weekend. Crystal's mother said there'd be no way in hell Crystal would be out in the middle of a field, in the middle of the pouring rain, especially not with a 2-year-old kid. Then, Brooks said, they went home, he fell asleep, last he saw she was, playing games on her phone, and when he awoke, she was gone. Brooks was then interviewed by the police and questioned, about this on the 8th of July.
So we're hearing tons and tons of rumors, right?
All right.
And I know Bardstown is the rumor mill of the world. But in a case like this, should it turn into a homicide investigation, any question that I didn't ask doesn't get asked. Does that make sense?
I don't understand what you're saying. But
well, if I don't ask you, then somebody's going to ask me why I didn't ask you later. You see what I'm saying?
Sure.
So when I ask you a question, it's not to be offensive, it's to get the question cleared up so that we can move on to another.
I understand. Yeah, I'll help however I can.
Had you and Crystal ever talked about breaking up?
I mean, obviously we have fought just like any other couple, but in the last several years, I mean, it's came up, but we've always found ourselves together moving forward.
Well, the reason I ask is because there are some people that she's associated with that are telling us that she had made some tentative plans to leave.
Well, that's news to me.
There, on the phone records, there appears to be a phone call around midnight. It was a pretty short phone conversation. Is the only reason I asked.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of unusual to get a 13-second phone conversation at midnight. You know, it is for me. It may not be for you. But
yeah, look at my phone, but I don't remember
you
that.
don't remember getting a phone call and wait on? So you go to bed, she stays up. What's she doing?
She's just on her phone.
And so when you wake up, he's there, but Crystal's not.
She's not.
Okay. And so did you try to call her or?
Yes, I noticed that she wasn't there. I didn't know exactly what to think. I don't know what time I called her. Yes, I called her that morning.
If I woke up on a Saturday morning and my wife wasn't with me in the bed, as is normal, which might not be normal for you, I don't know, but for me, it would be normal, particularly if my wife's a late sleeper, which mine is as well on Saturdays, for her to be there in the bed when I get up. So if she were not, probably the first thing I would do would be to call her to find out where she was.
But what you're not aware, what you're missing is a lot of times that her and Brooke, her sister, or Sabrina, a lot of these girls that they do all these, they go out and do stuff. Sometimes they do these, this is going to be embarrassing for me to talk to you about, but I'm wanting to get everything cleared up as quickly as I can. They do these fantasy parties. All these girls get together. They talk about and do whatever. And it's not uncommon for them, when they go out and party, they stay out the better part of the night, if not the whole night. So, and of course, I always have the children, there. Now, they don't take the kids to that. Matter of fact, I take care of some of their other children while they're the ones going. I'm a man, don't get me wrong. I understand that, a white-blooded American male. And there's no sense, I'm not telling anything different, but they do all these parties and order all this stuff. Well, who gets the kids? I'm good enough to get the kids for all this, and I'm a good enough person to do that. And then when everybody sees a little bit of distress, they're going to throw me under the bus. It bothers me because not only have I been a victim, I can't even, my mind's not even where it should be. I'm going to keep the main focus and emphasis on bringing her back safely and as quickly as possible.
In the middle of the interview, of course, Brooks gets a call. A call from who? A call from his brother, Nick. Nick the cop. This call, just listen, it seems so scripted, it's kind of funny.
Well, okay, so I guess where I go from here, we're still getting video from different places, that along that route.
Can I get this?
Sure,
Hello? No. I'm up here. I know that you didn't know. I'm up here in this interview with the Detective Snow. I've been up here a good little while. Are you telling me that's what I need to do? I know that. But the way that I look at it is, I'm innocent. I ain't done nothing wrong. Well, I know you told me innocent people have got jammed up, but if you're telling me to leave, I'll get up and leave. If you want me to, I know I'm going through a lot, but I'm trying to get this guy to help me. I don't think she's ran off with some other guy. I don't believe that. You can't make me think that. No. I'll do exactly what you're telling me to do right now. You want me to get up and leave? Man, I don't think these guys. I don't think these people are vindictive just to skin me for no reason. Man, this is not their family. This is not. All right, thank you. He thinks y'all gonna fuck is what he thinks.
I don't know who he is.
Nick, my brother. I know that, but I'm not. He just said just to keep sitting over here to give a statement, do an interview, whatever I got to do it. But he said, no, just to keep letting them just beat you to death over this right here. Just ask what you got to ask and let.
My job is to find her, whether I find her hopefully alive and well and safe somewhere, or not. My job is to find her. If I don't find her alive and well, my job is to prosecute the person who did something.
That's right.
If that turns out to be you, my job is to prosecute you.
Anyways, Nick basically tells him to stop talking and shut up. Then, after that interview, the brothers, Nick and Brooks, met up. They went out to that farm where Crystal was last seen, apparently. And they stayed out there for a few hours. What they did that evening out on that farm is unknown, but it's definitely thought of as not perfectly normal. This wasn't the first tragedy to affect, Crystal's family. By the way, her dad's sister, Crystal's aunt, Sherry Ballard Barnes, had been murdered over 30 years before. She had disappeared from Bardstown in 1979. She was 7.5 months pregnant. Her husband had wanted a divorce. Her, not so much. Her car was found in Indiana. No sign of Sherry. She was eventually found on a farm, having been shot. Her husband, Eddie Barnes, was charged with her murder in 1982. He didn't want to pay child support, and so he was sentenced to life in prison for what he did. And there was a few similarities between that and what we know of what happened to Crystal, but Crystal has never been found.
Joining me right now, in addition to her parents, Tom and Sherry Ballard, her boyfriend that she lived with, Brooks Houck, is with us. Some people have accused you of not being involved enough in the search efforts. What's your response?
That is a great question, and one I certainly appreciate you asking me. And that is all of my efforts in searching for her have been done behind the scenes with the Nelson County Sheriff's Office.
Like what?
On the 15th of July, Nick Houck sat down with the investigators. He was just acting, bit weird. Going out to farms with his brother, doing God knows what. Calling his brother during an interview about his missing partner. Definitely an odd one.
Nick, this is Detective John Ballard. Hello. How are you? Hey, guys. Fine. How are you? Let's see if we can find some. See what that chair is. This chair. Carry won't be fine.
She goes missing on Friday. Saturday's the 4th. Sunday's the 5th. Yeah. So that's when she gets reported missing.
Mm-hmm.
And he never called you for any advice on what to do?
No.
Okay. Would that be unusual?
I don't think so.
Okay. When did he ever call you after he reported her missing?
I'm sure at some point he's called. I don't really remember what he asked about, but.
Like, was that before? Do you remember when he was interviewed?
Oh, yeah.
When was that?
A few days after the fact.
Like a few days after what?
A few days after everything came out and the SO started interviewing him.
Did you make a phone call to him when the SO was interviewing him?
Yes, I did.
Matter of fact, I think it was a couple phone calls, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And kind of got a little spat on the phone, or it seemed like that to some people. What did you call it?
Well, just basically, Brooks is a really cooperative guy, obviously at this point you want to be cooperative, but you also want to protect yourself. And I think at a time like this right here, obviously you wouldn't be thinking exactly straight.
Mm-hmm.
So I just wanted to make sure that he was kind of, protecting himself while that he cooperated with law enforcement. And
mm-hmm.
So I didn't want him to, it's just easy to get things confused and stuff. And, so.
They had a few questions for him. One being, why did he meet his brother after he had his police interview? And why did they go out to the farm?
So do you remember going out to the farm the evening of July the 8th?
I don't, but I very easily could have been out there.
That was incidentally the same night that your brother was, I think the same night your brother was interviewed by police.
Yeah, Wednesday, July 8th. But you said generally, you would just go out to the farm and you would just meet him there. On this occasion, you all both.
Well, usually I don't meet him there.
you know, he's just out there doing his own thing, and then I go out there and do my own thing. I mean,
well, I mean, if that's what happened that night, it would have been just perfect timing that you were following right behind him, if you just so happened to meet him at the farm.
I see what you're saying.
So think back. Was there a time that you all both went out there at the same time for a specific reason?
Not that I recall.
So it just would have been coincidence that your car was following right behind his truck when it passed by that camera going to the farm?
Yeah, that's happened before.
Mm-hmm. So this night in particular, it would have been, you would have left after dark. Y'all came together and you would have left after dark. You remember that night?
Easily could have.
Okay. I mean, do you remember it?
No, really, I don't.
Okay.
I mean, it's just been a week ago.
Mm-hmm.
Driving down past Ballard, your car behind his truck. I mean, you got to turn in the farm there. You remember? Can you go back and put that in your head? Just driving down that road and you see your brother in front of you. What happened after that?
I can't.
What we need to know is why you all both went down to the farm. Because I know it's going to be hard for you to remember a week ago, but I can remember a week ago if I'm thinking about the conversation I had with my brother and something like this going on. This doesn't go on all the time, so I mean we're going to call it like it is. Is it you don't want to remember or can you remember?
I can't remember.
Okay.
Another question was, why did the trunk of his police cruiser test positive for bodily fluids?
Is there any reason that there'd be any blood in the trunk of your cruiser?
No reason at all.
We got some issues.
Okay.
Have you ever heard of luminol? You ever been in any kind of criminal investigation place? All right, you know what luminol is used for?
To find blood.
Okay. Or other
bodily fluids.
Okay. Why would your trunk look like a Smurf if they sprayed it? Why would it fluoresce?
It looked like Chernobyl. There's a couple spots in your trunk in that blanket. I mean, just lit up like Chernobyl.
Why would that?
There's not going to be any blood in the trunk.
Okay, well, I did not say blood. I'm talking about other bodily fluids.
I don't have blood. There shouldn't be any bodily fluids in the trunk.
I mean, there's only one way bodily fluids can get into a trunk. That's if a body's nearby, right? You know.
That's what I would assume.
Okay. Or unless somebody puked in your trunk or something like that.
I don't think that happened.
Don't think that's the case.
Somebody peed your trunk or.
No.
So why would that be if that blanket, when they looked at it at the lab?
I've got no explanation for that. None whatsoever.
Nobody has access to that car but you. You drive it.
Did your brother ever call you and say that he'd done something to Crystal?
No, he did not.
Because here's the case. Case is, you're a police officer, we're police officers. Right. We all know how this job works. I don't believe in coincidence after having this job. I don't know if you still do or not.
Not much.
I don't. Because you know that when somebody is sitting here talking to us and telling us that everything's a coincidence and we have either physical evidence or video or something to prove that that's not the fact, we kind of stop believing in coincidence. Now, that's the case of where we're at right here. There's too much linking you and him leaving when he leaves the police department, going down the road, both arriving together, both leaving together. There is some reason why you all went out to that farm. Now, I'm not a big fan of amnesia either, because I've heard that 20 or 30 times a week when I'm talking to people, so I don't believe people just lose their memory.
Mm-hmm.
I think people forget what they don't want to talk about. They hide those things. And sometimes it's a good person that does that because they're trying to protect their family or they're trying to protect themselves. But you know what? There's also bad people.
I'm big brother. I'm going to kind of try to protect him. At the same time, I'm not going to cover something like this up for him. I'm just not that kind of guy. And furthermore, there's no way he had anything to do with this. If something has happened to her, it wasn't because of something he did. Again, I know you guys have got a job to do. Do it, but you're wasting time.
Well, who else would be responsible for this?
I don't have any names to give you if I did.
What do you think? What do you think happened?
She's a nice looking woman. I don't know if she got out there on the Bluegrass Parkway and somebody abducted her. I don't know what happened, but I know Brooks didn't have anything to do with it.
Nick was asked to take a polygraph. He didn't show up for when it was organised, and then he refused to take one until, kind of sorta forced to take one. Why he didn't want to take one is obvious.
Well, Nick, I've had a chance to review your charts on both tests. That first test, you did not pass the test. It was pretty clear to me that you haven't told me the complete truth today. And the questions you're having a problem with are questions about Crystal. And in particular, the one about whether or not you know where she was right. I'm no longer asking you if you know. You do. 100%. And then greater than 99. What's greater than 99? 100, right? What are the questions? Do you know where Crystal is right now? Are you hiding any information about what happened to Crystal? You didn't tell me the truth on both of those questions.
I mean, you're talking crazy.
Well,
I mean, you're talking crazy.
Was that your rehearsed response to what was going to happen today? Because it sure sounds like it.
I don't know what it sounds like. I'm just telling
Well, I'm telling you what
you're talking crazy.
What's crazy about it? Explain to me.
The accusations you're making.
Yeah, I'm saying you were involved in this.
Absolutely not.
Well,
none.
You already told me that. That's why we did the polygraph, to find out. Well, now we both.
I told you what now?
You told me before you had nothing to do with it. Right.
Yes.
Well, now we're past that because I've already shown that you did have something.
I don't know what the test.
I just showed you.
Okay,
I just showed it to you.
But I'm telling you, I did have.
And I'm telling you you're lying. I mean, I can't make it any. I'm not trying to hurt your feelings, but I'm not telling you the truth. I can't argue with this. I've done over 2,000. Trust me, when I told you I know what I'm doing, I know what I'm doing.
You must have slipped up today. I mean, I don't.
What do you think the chances are better that you slipped up and the truth sunk out here that I slipped up?
You listen to what I'm saying. I've been 100% truthful.
Why are you yelling at me?
Well, because you're telling me I'm lying and I know I'm not. I know the truth, you know? And I'm being 100% honest with you, the grand jury, and everybody else I've spoken to.
Here's what I'm getting. We just said.
Yes, I have.
No, you haven't.
I most definitely have. And if you don't want to believe it, that's your issue. It's not mine.
It's not just me. I showed you.
Dude, I don't give a goddamn what your fucking computer said. Okay?
I think you do.
I'm telling you that I have been 100% honest with you.
Is this how you act when you just act this way towards Crystal?
When somebody... Is this how I act toward Crystal? Yeah. I act toward people that accuse me of lying when I'm not lying. That's how I act. No, I didn't know Crystal.
Then why are you getting slammed?
Because you're calling me a fucking liar.
No, I'm just calling you a liar.
Okay?
I'm not cussed you.
I don't like it when people call me a liar. I'm being 100% truthful with you.
Tell me the truth or not. What you said.
Why can't you? I'm being truthful.
Now, polygraphs, of course, should be taken with, a grain of salt. But weird, huh? 2 months later, Nick Houck was suspended. Pick any one of the previously mentioned reasons for that. Big one, though, being the call during the interview.
I took the badging gun, as the model would be. I took his authority and those items when I suspended him.
And just being generally extremely the opposite of cooperative. Uncooperative, I believe the word is. During this entire investigation, a month later, in October, he was fired. At the same time, Brooks was officially listed as a suspect in the disappearance of Crystal Rogers.
It's safe to say that she's deceased. And you can do that because people have certain ways that they do business. They have to have income. They have to have food. They have to have water. They have to have shelter. They have to have family. Crystal Rogers was extremely close with her family. She has had no contact with her family.
Since they named him a suspect, I feel like they're working now, which I always thought the Sheriff's Department was doing a good job, but it makes me feel a lot better.
Where was Crystal, though? These searches continued, I mean, I would say no one knows, but that's not true. Crystal's parents, Tom and Sherry Ballard, never gave up looking.
I just hope something comes out of it. I hope it's a new lead we get.
We just keep looking. We keep pressing the Houcks to find answers.
The investigation continued. Search warrants issued for the farm Crystal was last seen on, and Nick and Brooks' houses. They were also on the lookout for a white Buick, which was seen on the farm, around the time she disappeared. A white Buick that just happened to get sold shortly before the police could get it. Now, no Houck was actually ever arrested in this case, in the disappearance. In fact, the only person who was arrested was a guy named Danny Singleton.
I know I'll be happy when it's over, so we can have some kind of closure. I don't mean that in a bad way, but it's just hard on everybody.
Tommy Ballard reluctantly admits knowing he won't see his daughter again alive. Still, he's desperate to find her and bring her home. On Wednesday, the Nelson County Sheriff's Department announced the arrest of Danny Singleton after a grand jury indicted him on 38 counts of perjury. Investigators say Singleton lied early on in the investigation when he was questioned about Rogers' disappearance.
I hope in a couple of weeks that, they can solve this case. I'm hoping Danny will tell him something if he knows something.
He was a longtime friend of Brooks. He was arrested for lying to police about his whereabouts when Crystal disappeared. Not much came out of that though, and he did 8 months. And so the searches for Crystal would continue until one last event in 2016. On the 19th of November 2016, it was a Saturday, 16 months after the disappearance of Crystal, Crystal's father Tommy, who had, taken charge of the search effort, went out hunting with his 10-year-old grandson. It was deer hunting season, and Tommy and the young fella were out on private land, a field, once again, just off Bluegrass Parkway. It was a bonding time for the granddad and grandson. At around 6:50 a.m., the grandson began walking back towards the truck to grab something, and Tommy, who was standing in the field, was shot. He was shot in the chest. The boy ran back, and Tommy asked him to look through his jacket to find his phone. That's all he said, and by the time the paramedics arrived, he was gone. Who shot him? Nobody knows. It wasn't self-inflicted. Neither Tommy nor the grandson's rifle had been fired that morning.
We're just asking anybody, whether they think it's important, whether it's just something they noticed and it could not be anything to them, it may be huge for us.
Monday, state police returned to the family farm where Tommy Ballard was killed. He was shot while hunting with his grandson shortly before 7 a.m. Saturday. He is the father of Crystal Rogers, missing since 2015. Police investigating his death are specifically looking for people who were driving on nearby Bluegrass Parkway. Police are not saying if they know the direction from which the gunshot came. They ruled out a self-inflicted wound and say the grandson was not involved.
The grandson said that the last he saw of his granddad was him looking through the scope of his rifle. Maybe looking at something or someone in the distance. The investigation into who shot him has, well, the police have kept it pretty close to their chests. They haven't released a whole lot. But it wasn't an accident, and once again it seemed like, maybe like what happened to Jason Ellis. An ambush. So what are the, connections between all of these cases? Well, other than Crystal and Tommy, I don't think I really need to say what the major connection between that one is and what all the rumors are saying. Other than that, we don't know. Brooks Houck is still number one suspect in everybody's eye in Crystal's disappearance. Tommy was totally in charge of the search for her. Maybe he was getting close to something, and so, if something happened to Tommy too, gee, I wonder who. But how is what happened to Crystal and Tommy connected to Kathy, Samantha, and Jason? There's rumors that have gone around. The police have said that, they aren't ruling out the idea of them being connected, but it's just hard to see how. But at the same time, the city of Bardstown, it seems like such a... It has quite a low crime rate, so if they're not connected, that's equally as bizarre. The FBI is continuing its investigation into all cases. In fact, there was a flurry of news back in August 2020 when it was thought that the remains of Crystal Rogers may have been found near where her car was discovered. However, it was eventually revealed to not have been her. It is a woman's, but they haven't been identified yet. There have been a few, bits and bobs since the last murder in Bardstown. Unsolved murder anyway. Brooks' new girlfriend, also named Crystal, she was arrested for stealing a, standing with the Ballard sign. Brooks was also arrested for stealing roofing shingles.
New information tonight on the Crystal Rogers case. The FBI has released new surveillance photos of possible cars of interest. The photos show 3 cars in 2 separate pictures, all photos taken in Bardstown.
Most recently, Sherry Ballard has been denied the right to visit her grandson, with the judge saying there is clear and convincing evidence significant hostility exists between the Ballard family and Houck. One person, genuinely my heart really goes out to in this story though, is Sherry Ballard, who hasn't given up on finding her daughter and also her husband's killer. Killers, maybe. Probably.
I'm hanging in there. I know that my daughter is the most important thing in this world to me. And Tommy. So I have to do what I have to do to get justice for them.
There really is something nasty in Bardstown. Very, something very nefarious for what's, the most beautiful small town in America. It's definitely, I'm sure the town definitely doesn't want the story of what has happened there associated with it. And this story has been reported on a fair bit. But, at the same time, it's like, you guys awake or what's going on over there? Gurmila Magat August, I will see you as always real soon in the next one. You know it, Until then, you know what you can do for me? You can take care of yourself. Till then, Mike out.